Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Christy. I'm a homeschool mom to 3 kids. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a look inside Lightning Literature Grade 5. So recently I've been getting kind of a lot of interest and questions about language arts and Lightning Literature specifically. And so I wanted to kind of share with you a look inside the grade 5 Lightning Literature and kind of chat a little bit about the program and just kind of give you a good overview of the program. I did do a Lightning Literature video last year when we did grade 4, so I will link that one up above as well so that you can check that one out too. So as I mentioned, we did Lightning Literature grade 4 last year. Loved it so much. It was definitely like our favorite curriculum that we used last year. And we were not planning on using Lightning Literature this year. We were planning on using Brave Writer Arrow guides to go along with our Gather Round unit studies that we were doing. However, my daughter came to me a couple weeks after school started missing Lightning Literature, really expressing the want to do Lightning Literature again. She missed it. And I kind of did as the mom as well. And so I ended up picking up grade 5 and we began it pretty quickly, and we are almost finished with our first book. So Lightning Literature is published by Hewitt Learning, and so you can find Lightning Literature on Rainbow Resource and then also at hewittlearning.com or Hewitt Learning's website. I'm not sure. I will link it down below for you. And they have programs all the way from grade 1 all the way up through, I think, grade 8, and I think there might be high school ones, or there will be high school ones. I'm not sure if they already have them or if they're working on them. It is a literature-based curriculum that covers most aspects of language arts. However, this is not a phonics program, so it will not teach your children to read. It is more so kind of reading books and discovering the aspects of books and grammar and all of that, but it's not going to actually teach your child to read. We only have experience with kind of those upper elementary grades so far, so I have not used the younger years. In my experience with Lightning Literature, the grades don't matter that much because the content is so rich, and then with grammar concepts you are going to be kind of repeating and building upon the same grammar concepts throughout all of the years. So it doesn't matter all that much where you place your child. I would say that if you went like a grade below, you would still be okay. Like we are doing grade 5 and it's like a perfect level for where she's at. I think she would have been fine with grade 6 as well. There's not like a huge jump there. So with placement, it's a little bit tricky because they don't just have like a placement test. If you email Hewitt, they will send you kind of the scope and sequence like by email, so you can look at all of the topics that are covered. I believe that they're working on a written out, more understandable broad range scope and sequence, but I don't believe that they have that available yet. I love that it's very open and go. You open the teacher's guide, you open the student book, it's written right there what you do. There's not a lot of prep work involved. The other thing that I really love about it too is that at least in the upper grades with grade 4 and grade 5 and up, I'm not sure about the younger ones, like I said, I haven't used those, but in those grades, the writing is written to the student. So it's written to your child in a very conversational tone, and we really like that. And although I don't require her to kind of read it on her own and do the work on her own as of yet, we still read it together. It is quite nice that it is kind of talking to them like it's their friend. And there's a lot of humor kind of intertwined, a lot of jokes, and then they also will say stuff like, okay, I'm about to give you a ton of information, but don't freak out, take a deep breath, just try to listen and take notes and just bear with me. Sometimes grammar rules can be really overwhelming for kids when you're just listing and telling them all of these different rules about grammar. It can go over their head very easily. So I appreciate that they are kind of saying, okay, this is hard, this is a lot, just take a deep breath. We're going to go through this. We're not expecting you to master all of this after listening to this one time. The other thing that I really love about it is that I feel like each level has a very wide variety of types of books. So your child's going to be exposed to not necessarily books that they would choose on their own, and not necessarily the styles that they would choose on their own. And I love that because sometimes they discover a different kind of genre that they never thought that they would enjoy, and then they suddenly love it after reading one. There's probably going to be books in there that your child will really love. There might be some that they kind of struggle through because they're not as interested, but those may be super interesting to a different child. So I think it caters to a lot of different kids that way. And then also one thing that I love about it in literature learning in general is how they relate the grammar concepts to the book. So they will pull sentences out of the book. They might make up a sentence that includes the characters that are in the book you're reading often. And so that kind of ties the grammar in with the book that you're reading, and I love that. The grammar lessons are pretty, like you might read a lot of grammar rules, but the actual application's short and sweet, so it's not overwhelming. The other thing is the composition is also, I think, taken from a view of not being overwhelming to the child. It's really broken down into bite-sized pieces. They're doing a little bit of writing every single day. And, you know, one day it might just be a brainstorming day. One day it might be just coming up with a topic. For reluctant writers like I have, that is a big task for them to just come up with a topic and just do the brainstorming or the outline. That can be a lot for them. So I appreciate that they don't shove a lot of the composition in each day. It's really spread out, and it makes it a lot more manageable for those kinds of kids. I did mention in my video last year that I felt like the composition was a little bit weak in instruction. So far, I think that it actually got better in grade 5. It's a little bit less vague, I feel like, in the instruction. Another thing too is that Hewitt has recognized that the writing might be a little vague, and so they have actually come up with different worksheets to help with the writing portion for each grade level. And you can download those from the Hewitt's website. If you're a member of Lightning Literature's Facebook group, it's also in the files on the Facebook group. And so you can download each grade level and print those out, and they're meant to help with the writing process. Also, I am always asked, you know, do I need the teacher's guide for this program? And I feel like with curriculum, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But with this one, you definitely need the teacher's guide. It has a lot of information in it that is not in the student book. So all of the writing instruction and the projects are all in the teacher's guide. There's no mention of it in the student books whatsoever. So you need that if you're going to do the composition part. The other thing is it has all of the answers to the grammar and comprehension questions, which if you're not reading the book with your child, the comprehension questions are important to know kind of what's going on. It also has extra information in there that is not in the student book as well, as far as kind of the analysis of the books, because at the end of a book, there's a whole kind of literature analysis breakdown. They talk about the setting and the plot and the character development, and they talk about, you know, the style and different things that the author kind of intended. And they do that partly in the student book. There's like a big breakdown in there, but there's also additional information and breakdowns in the teacher guide. Right, another thing, this program does not have spelling. So if you prefer to have a spelling program, you will have to add that in extra. One thing that I really love, and I did mention this in my previous video that I talked about planning unit history studies with Lightning Literature. I'll link that up above as well. But I mentioned that on every day 5, it's kind of a free day. So you either can have your child work on composition, or you can do kind of, they have like optional extend the lesson or extend the topic kind of prompts. As far as consumable and non-consumable, the student book is consumable. If you buy the print version, it's consumable. The teacher's guide is not. They do have packages that include all the literature as well. I personally don't usually do that. I usually go on thrift books and find my books that way. You can also purchase the PDF. They have PDF options for both teacher's guide and student books for all the grade levels. So that's really nice as well. And that's the route I went this year because it's a little bit more affordable actually. And then I can use it, you know, for Emmett when he comes up through here. And so they are very large books. There's like over 400 pages in both of the books. There's a lot of pages. And so I printed the teacher's guide and bound that. And then for the student book, I printed up through the first, I think, 3 books that we're reading. And then I will print, you know, so on as I need. Okay, another thing for the upper levels, I suggest pre-reading or at least pre-researching the book selection. Make sure that the content isn't too much for your kids. I would definitely look into the literature pieces before. I also think that some of the books deal with some tough topics sometimes. I haven't found anything where I have been like alarmed or to where I couldn't do it with my kid or couldn't read it with them. I haven't found that. They seem to be very gentle books introducing some hard points. For example, in the book we're reading now, it is about an African American family during the Great Depression, and they don't shy away from racism. They don't shy away from the fact that things were like a million times harder for African American families during the Great Depression. There are a lot of aspects of that in the book. And so definitely just make sure that that's content that you think is okay for your kids. And yeah, make sure that you know your kids well and you know what you're okay with and you can deem what's appropriate and what's not. I recommend doing that for any literature-based program just because you never know kind of what could pop up and you might be surprised or not ready to kind of explain it to them or something like that. So just make sure, like I said, I haven't found anything alarming for my personal kind of beliefs and preferences, but I just always suggest that to parents. Okay, so now I am going to show you kind of a flip through, a look inside what a typical, you know, unit looks like. So I hope that's helpful to you, and let's go. So first I'm going to show you the books. So the first book is this one here. This is The Mighty Miss Malone. This is a book we are almost finished with. It's about an African American family during the Great Depression, and it follows them through their kind of trials and tribulations. It's a really, really great book. Love it so far. The next one is Holes, which I purchased at Thrift Books, as you can tell. But Holes, definitely a classic. That's the book we're reading next. And then the rest of the books are not in order. Number the Stars, Brown Girl Dreaming. This one looks cool because this one is told by verse. So it's kind of like told in a big giant poetry kind of way. The Phantom Toll Booth. This is one we actually had on hand but hadn't read yet. I got it as like one of the read aloud selections, but we never read it. I've heard really good things about this. This is like funny and silly and just like totally fun. I Am Malala. This is the Young Readers Edition. Roald Dahl Boy, The Tales of Childhood. This one is all about Roald Dahl's life, but told in a very like comical way. Anne of Green Gables is another one. This one is the last book that we'll be reading this year, and I'm excited to read this because I love Anne of Green Gables. And then there's one other one that I haven't purchased yet, and it's called The Tripods, and it is a science fiction type in the future with like robots and like different things. So I haven't purchased that one yet, but I need to grab it. But yeah, those are the book selections for grade 5. These are the 2 parts of Lightning Literature. We have the teacher's guide and the student guide. I'm going to show you the student guide first just because it is the most pretty and colorful. The teacher's guide is not in color. So here's the table of contents, and it has each book color coded, which I really love because then you can see exactly how many weeks it's going to take and that sort of thing. So we have all the books listed out there. And then every week they have a student checklist, and it tells you, you know, you're reading 1 through 12 during this, and you're reading this, and then it tells you what to do. And so they can check off this list if they like lists. And then this is what a typical day looks like, okay? So you have your reading, and it'll tell you, oh, read chapters 1 through 3 of the Mighty Miss Malone. It has the comprehension questions, which we actually do these orally. That's why you don't see responses. We just kind of talk about them. And what I really like about it too is that the comprehension questions are about the actual reading, but they also really sometimes throw in some thought-provoking questions in here too, which I think is wonderful. And then it goes on to the grammar lesson. So with this grammar, we're looking at nouns, it says, and like you can see here, it's very conversational. And then it goes into the lesson. So it tells her to give like examples of all of these nouns. And then they're giving you 3 examples, write the definition. So I ended up doing this orally because, like I said, I have a reluctant writer, so she doesn't always want to do these fill in the blanks things. This next lesson, it's showing to read 4 through 6. Here are the comprehension questions. And then they're talking about irregular plural nouns. Sometimes I'm finding with grade 5, there's definitely more information to read every day. But like I said, they always kind of lead with, oh, don't worry, it's a lot of information. Take a breath. So they do kind of give a lot of information. So all of this, we read this together. And then she has some practice with it. Here's another day where it's got the comprehension questions. You can see up at the top, they tell you what day you're on. So this is day 3. This information, and then this is day 3. And then you go into day 4. This page of reading. And then here's the part where she practices. I think that's it for day 4. And then it moves on to week 2. And again, it has the checklist for your kids. Day 1, day 2, still day 2, a lot of reading. Day 2 practice. So the actual application is pretty short. It doesn't take that long usually. Okay, so this is just a student book. And then we're into the new book. So that's pretty much how it is. It's pretty straightforward. Same kind of routine every day. Read the chapters, comprehension, and then the grammar lesson and application. Okay, now I'm going to show you the teacher's guide, which has the writing in it. So here's the teacher's guide. Again, it has a table of contents. And then again, it gives you a week at a glance on like kind of what you're going to be doing. You're doing a personal essay on a memorable teacher or learning experience. So it has day 1. It tells you what the day of reading is here. And then kind of some notes. And then they have the answers to the comprehension questions. The grammar lesson is kind of laid out like, okay, this week we're doing this. And then the answers to the grammar lesson. And then it goes into composition. So this is what I mean by it being broken up into chunks. We're easing into composition with a relatively simple 1-week personal essay on a memorable teacher or learning experience. Today, your student should brainstorm or choose a topic. This could be a teacher of any sort, school teacher, music teacher, tutor, sports coach, anything, or a time where the student had an especially memorable learning experience. By the end of the day, students should have the topic for their paper. That's it. They just need to have the topic. And then you go into day 2. It tells you what the reading is, comprehension, the answers to the grammar. And today the students are brainstorming ideas for the paper. By the end of the day, students should have raw material to put into a paper tomorrow. So it's kind of like an outline. Today, students will write their rough draft. Aim for at least 3 paragraphs. For average or above students, 5 would be even better. Students who struggle can have shorter papers. So here is where I was talking about the extending the lesson. So day 5 is a free day to use however you choose or explore these ideas below. So They talk about making apple pies. Book when apples were often too expensive for people. Look up a recipe for mock apple pie and make it. So just different things. It's pretty cool, like every day 5. So it's definitely like kind of a 4-day week schedule, which I love because it gives us a little bit of wiggle room for sure. Again, with extending lesson here, they give you some links to different things. So this part is day 4, literature book discussion. So this is what I was talking about. At the end of the book, there's a book discussion lesson. And so this breaks down all of the literature, the theme, the story, characters, the setting, external details, internal details, conflict, symbolism, which is really cool. And then in the student book, they also have a little bit of stuff too at the end. I just love the ease of use with this. It really doesn't take like super long through our day. I would think the reading is probably the most time consuming, to be honest. And the way we do the reading is we do it as a read aloud. So I usually read most of it. Sometimes we'll alternate and she'll read one chapter, I'll read one chapter, etc. And then other times we'll use the audio book and kind of just follow along. And that like saves my voice a little bit. But we enjoy doing that. You know, it's kind of like a bonding like part for us. And it's just like our special cozy time reading together. She loves when I read to her still. So, yeah, we love doing that. As she gets older, I foresee her reading the books more independently for sure. But right now, we're just kind of enjoying the time together. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and a look at Lightning Literature Grade 5. Like I said, we love Lightning Literature. It's definitely like our favorite curriculum that we've used so far. And I plan on continuing it through like as far as I feel like it works for my children. So I hope you guys enjoyed and found this helpful, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye.